doesn't work out properly, okay? So we don't explode it so that we can add parameters to it. We do it in the way, and I'm going to show you that today, okay? Again, the key component here is how we set up the file to accept materials, okay? So that's what we're going to do today. Again, we're going to add an AutoCAD file as well as a Sketchup file into Revit. And we're going to hand out assignment number 3, step 2, which is adding 3 AutoCAD and 3 SketchUp files into your assignment. All right, so here's the step-by-step process. So I'm going to guide you through this. So let's go ahead and open up the AutoCAD file. Okay, and I'm just going to read word for word off my notes here. Okay, let's open up the AutoCAD file. I think it's called, what, oval table? Table oval, something like that. Okay, and it looks like this.
Sancho, it doesn't open. It's an AI, it's not a CAD drawing file.
No. Open up your AutoCAD first, and then open up the file. Okay? It's not an AI file, it's an AutoCAD file, but your computer may not associate EWG with AutoCAD. So when you double click, it may open up Illustrator. Okay? So open up AutoCAD first, then go through the open option in AutoCAD, and then open the file. So I'm just going to, again, read through my notes here. There are many AutoCAD 3D blocks that can easily be downloaded from the internet. It would save a lot of time if you can insert the 3D block into Revit, into your Revit file. To do this, you must set up a new family file and insert the AutoCAD file into the RFA file and then load it into Revit. Now, before we do this, however, we must get the AutoCAD file set up appropriately. Okay, so here's the steps. First, we download and open the AutoCAD file. So this is a 3D block that I found on bimobjects.com. Okay, and then the second step is to delete all unnecessary items. So you can see on this drawing here, we've got some attributes down here at the bottom. So just go ahead and delete those. Okay. Now, there is one step that is not in your notes that we figured out yesterday when we did my morning class, is that your 3D model has to be comprised of 3D faces. Okay, that's very important. You can see in this model here, all the surfaces are comprised of 3D faces. Okay, so what does that mean? If you ever come across a drawing, okay, and you don't have to do this, just watch for 1 second. If you ever come across a drawing that is composed of 3D blocks, or sorry, 3D solids, okay, so take a look right here. I'm just going to generate a 3D solid here. Okay, so if I put my mouse on top of it, you can see it says it's a 3D solid. Okay, if you ever have, and again, if you ever have a model that's comprised of 3D solids, all we simply have to do is explode it. Okay, when we explode it, you'll notice they're called regions or 3D faces. Okay. So you got to make sure that it's not a 3D solid. 3D solids, for some reason, come in properly in Revit, but they don't accept materials. Okay? So you got to make sure that, and you can see that each side is an independent surface. Okay? So you got to make sure it's either a 3D solid or a 3D region. Okay? So that it will accept materials. So you can see in this example here, excuse me, a lot of the objects that are in 3D, or sorry, that are in bimobjects.com, they're all 3D faces already, okay, like this one here, okay? So next step, set up your layers, and this is the most important part of the process, is we got to make sure that any object that is a different material is on a different layer, okay, because eventually we will be applying a material to a given layer. So let's go to our Home tab. So let me get back to my drafting and annotation. Let's go to our Home tab, let's go into our Layer Property Manager, and let's create some layers here. Okay, so let's go Table Top, maybe one layer. I'll give it a color, doesn't matter what color. Okay, next one will be Table Legs. And again, I'll give it a different color. And then the last one is Table Casters. Okay, those are the wheels on the table. Alright. Once you've generated all those 3 layers with 3 different colors, I want you to turn those layers off. Turn those layers off. And the reason why I'm turning it off is so that once I transfer an object onto a layer, it will turn off, and once I have no more objects on my drawing, obviously, I know I've completely placed all the objects onto the appropriate layers. Alright, so go ahead now, finish that. Alright, now, in order to select these, it's very difficult to select from a 3D view, because if I try to select something like this, you can see that I accidentally end up selecting something on the Table Legs layer. So the best way to select objects on here is, let's go to the front view, please. So you can see here, you've got your 3D view cube, similar to Revit. Go to your front view, and we'll select objects like this. Let's start with the wheels. So let's zoom in, and use your crossing window, okay, and pick up to there. Alright, and then put it on your table caster layer. Okay. Then go to the next side. Okay, pick there. And again, put it on your table caster layer. Next, we'll do the table legs. Okay, for this one, zoom into this top corner here and just pick a point directly below your table. Okay, just right about there, below your table. Don't pick above your table, because I don't want to pick the table, obviously. So just pick below the table, and then all the way across, and this will be for your table legs. And then lastly, the remaining items. Select it all, and put that on your table top. Okay. So now everything's gone. Let's go ahead and put those layers back on. Okay, view it in 3D. Okay. And that's probably the most important step out of this whole process, is making sure that all the objects that are on a different material reside on a different layer. Any questions? Okay, pretty simple. Let's go ahead now and resave this file. Okay. Close up AutoCAD now, and let's start Revit. Now, when you start Revit, just like last week, we have to put this model on an RSA file, in a family file, and it's going to be sitting on the floor. So that means we're going to use, just like we did last week when we did our furniture, we used the generic model floor-based template. Okay, so that's what we're going to do here. We're going to start a new family file, okay, and then we are going to insert this AutoCAD file into a new family file. So here we are, we're in our start window here, and again, I'm going to start a new family. Okay, so make sure, not new project, but new family. And go into this is an Imperial file, so let's go into the English I folder. So take a step back into the family templates folder and go English I. And again, we're going to use a generic model floor-based template. Okay, similar to what we did last week when we created our family files. This table is going to be hosted by the floor, so that's what I want. So I'm going to go to my 3D view here. I'm just going to double check, and normally it is, so I'm sure it will be. I'm just going to show my reference or my work plane. I'm just making sure it's on the top of this floor slab, which it is. Bear with us. It should be there automatically. All right, so now that we're in our family file and we have our work plane situated on the top of the floor, let's now go ahead and insert this. Okay, so please go under Insert, Import CAD, go into your week 9. You can see it's searching for a DWG file. Perfect. Let's go into our week 9 folder. Okay, and there's that table oval, or oval table. Okay, make sure that, again, you can see there, all my layers are there. Okay, let's go ahead and open that. And there we go. So you can see the model itself is pretty easy to bring in, okay? It's now how do we incorporate the materials on it, okay? So you can see that this object is a one entity object, and this is very important. Do not explode it, okay? Never explode it, because it's gonna turn into 10,000 faces. And then good luck putting materials on 10,000 faces. Okay, so let's go now and set our visual style. Let's set our detail level to fine. I don't think anything different is going to happen there, but let's set our visual style to realistic. Because remember, realistic is the only visual style that you're going to be able to eventually see the materials. Okay, so here's how you apply materials to these layers. Okay, and again, it's not being able to go in and add a parameter to this, because like I said, this is a one entity object. Okay, you can't add multiple parameters to a one entity object, because we have to be able to select the different objects. Okay, so by the fact that we can't explode it, okay, we can't create parameters. All right, so here's how you do it. Please go under the Manage tab. And under the Object Styles option, so click on Object Styles right beside Materials. All right. And then go into your Imported Objects tab. And there you go. Okay, you can see there are the 3 layers for this file. And right here is how you apply materials to each of them. All right, so go ahead now. Click onto the default material, and there's your material browser. I'm going to start with the table caster legs, or the table caster wheels. I'm going to go into my project browser. All right, and I'll search. Maybe for this one, again, it doesn't matter to me what material you put in. Maybe I'm going to put in some type of black material here. Okay, so I'm going to look down. Okay, maybe I'll just do this laminated black. Okay, I'll put that on. Okay, table legs. And maybe I'll use some type of metal or chrome. Again, it doesn't matter to me what you put on. Okay, so I'm going to use this steel chrome plated material. And then lastly, tabletop. Maybe I'll put some type of wood. Maybe bamboo. And lastly, I'll apply it. So you should be able to see there. materials now have been applied. Now, do not be alarmed with the fact that it's got red all around, or yellow, or green. It's got the layer material or layer color all over it. That's not going to show up when you render. Okay, that's not going to show up when you render. However, if that bothers you, okay, and you do want to make it, okay, a different color, okay, again, there's the color right there, okay, and if you just want to make it black, obviously, okay, you can just go in here and change the colors of the layers. Sometimes you're putting this in a floor plan and you don't want it to look out of sorts. Okay, so maybe you want to do that. But again, it doesn't alter whatever the color of the edges or the faces are. It's not going to alter your renderings. Okay, and that sometimes is what you're only concerned about. All right, so now that we have this and the default materials applied to it, let's now go ahead and put this in a file. So let's go ahead and save this. We're going to now save it as a family file. And let's again put it in our week 9 folder, and let's just call it again oval table. Okay, and again, we're saving it as an RFA file. All right, so let's click save. There we go. Okay, and now let's go ahead, we can close this file off. And let's go ahead and open up your assignment 3-start file, okay? Try to open up the one that I gave you, so you may have to go back onto week 8 and open that up. Try not to use the one that you're working on, okay? You can if you'd like, and then delete these things that we're putting in afterwards. We are. Okay, I'm going to put this on the ground floor furniture plan. I'll put it right in this area here. Alright, so again, just like we load in any other component, we go under architecture, component, load family, go into your week 9 folder. Okay, there it is, oval table, load it in, there we go. You can see that after you load it in, not during the process, but after you load it in, you can use your space bar, okay, to rotate that out. So now if I view it in 3D, you can see it there through this window here, or I'll hide this, I'll hide all my walls. See that object appears right there. Okay. And again, the key thing here is the ability to be able to edit the materials on it. Okay, so just like we did with the RFA file, we could do the same thing here with this RFA file within the project file. If I wanted to alter the materials now, okay, here's how we would do it. Same process. Go under your Manage tab, and there it is, same dialog box. Object styles, imported objects, expand the imported in families, and there's your three layers. Okay, and then I could go in there if I want, and I could simply change the material. Okay, let's say I want to put glass on it now. And now you may not see the materials, or you want to see the materials as its more realistic state. I'll just simply do a quick render here just to show you that, okay, the materials are being applied to it. You can't really see some of the materials because chrome doesn't really look like chrome until you do a rendering of it. So I'll just do a quick draft rendering here just to show you the outcome of materials on this object. You can see it there. It's kind of in shadow, okay, but you can see the chrome glass on the wall. Okay, so that is now the new third way of applying materials to objects. Normally we do an edit type and we edit the parameter of the component, or we've used a paint process to apply materials. Here's the third way. Through our layering system, we can incorporate materials again through manage, object styles, imported objects, and through that, okay, through that layering, okay, is where we apply materials. Any questions? All right, now, let's go ahead and minimize, minimize this. We'll go back to it in a minute. And let's go ahead and open up the Sketchup file that I gave you. Okay, we'll now take a look at how to incorporate Sketchup files into our Revit files. Okay, now this process is a little more lengthy. Okay, there's a little more setup involved when dealing with Sketchup files. Okay, so again, I'm going to read right from my notes here. Okay, millions of SketchUp 3D models can be downloaded from the 3D warehouse. I'm sure you're familiar with the 3D warehouse by now. However, there are quite a few steps to get the file set up before you insert into a Revit file. Okay, it says open a SketchUp file or start a new file and download a 3D component into it. And that's what I did. I started a new file and I simply went into the 3D warehouse and I took this chair and inserted it. Now, one step that is missing here that you should also take a look at, and we found this out yesterday when we were doing this, is this chair is not actually sitting on the floor. Okay, so when we brought it into Revit, it was actually hovering over. Okay, so let's take a moment here and let's make sure this object is residing on the ground. To check this, please open up your toolbar. So let's go under the View tab. Let's go to Toolbar. And let's open up the Views toolbar. Okay. So open up the Views toolbar. Okay, so that's your Views toolbar right here. So again, it's under View, Tool Palette, open up your Views toolbar, and it's right here. And what I want you to do is I want you to view this from the front view. I want you to view it from the front. Now this view from the front is a perspective front view. Okay, so we got to make sure that we are in parallel projection mode. So go under your camera tab and click parallel projection so that we're viewing it straight on. So this is a straight on front view. And from this view you can clearly see that this object is floating. Okay, it should sit right on the red axis there. So select the object. You'll see that the object is a one entity object. And let's go ahead and use our move command. Pick a base point, doesn't matter where, and just move your object down so that it is very close or flush with the red axis. Still a little off. Again, try it again. Select the object, move. All right, so next. And we might as well stay in this view because this is the actual view. Just like we did before, this is the best view to be able to take objects and place them onto the appropriate layers. Okay, so that's the next step, just like we did in AutoCAD. The next step is to apply these objects to the appropriate layers. Now, you'll notice, however, that when you select this object, just like AutoCAD, or when you select this object, this one entity, okay? So we need to explode it. Actually, you know what? The best way to explode it. Let's go into our 3D view. Let's go into our isometric view. Back to this view here. Okay? Because we have to be able to see all the objects while we're exploding. Okay, so here's the next step. It says explode the file until it can no longer be exploded. Okay? It has to, just like our AutoCAD file, it has to consist of faces. Okay? Only faces. And you can see right now it is a one entity object. So let's go ahead and explode it. To explode it, I need you to select the object, do a right click, and you'll see the option explode. Okay, we're going to have to do this until that explode no longer shows. Okay, so once I exploded it, I now deselect it and then reselect it, and you can still see it's still enabled to explode. So you need to explode it again. Once you explode it again, now deselect and then try to reselect, and you can see all your objects are faces. Okay, so you can zoom or go in there and check to see that all your surfaces are faces. Now, you'll notice all the wood, all the frames are all surfaces. But look at the cushion. Select the cushion. You can see that cushion is not a face. Okay, so we need to explode it. So again, select it, do a right click. There's my explode option. So every time you still see that explode option, you know it's not faces. Okay? So now there you go. And if I click onto it and do a right click again, you'll see explode is no longer available there. That's how I know that it is a face and not a solid. Okay? So again, if I select any object on here and do a right click, okay, if you do see explode in the options, okay, you need to explode it. So I'm just going to double check. I'm going to orbit around. I'm just going to double check the bottom of this. Okay, looks like everything's a face now. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so again, just like AutoCAD, we needed to make sure that all the objects are 3D faces or 3D surfaces before we continue. Now, once we're done exploding everything to convert them to 3D faces, the next step, it says to create a layer for each material, just like we did in AutoCAD. So to create our layers, okay, if you've ever, this is new to me, this SketchUp Pro 2020 that they just installed. There's no layer panel anymore. They changed the name. It's called tags now. Okay, so they're called tags, but they act exactly the same. So there's tags. Also, I need you to make sure that you have your toolbar, your tags toolbar open. So please click on View, Toolbar, okay? And can you please turn on your tags toolbar? So again, there it is. Again, it's just like our layers that we're used to. Just change the name of it. All right, and let's go ahead and put in our layers now. Okay, so we're gonna have two layers, one for the chair frame and one for the chair seat. Okay, so let's go ahead, click onto your plus sign. We'll start with the chair frame. Okay, don't worry about the color, I don't care what color it is. And then the other one is chair seat. Okay, there's our two. The next step, place all objects onto the appropriate new layer. Okay, so let's go back to our front view. Easiest way to select objects. Okay, and let's go ahead. Now you'll notice any object you select here is on the untagged layer. We used to call it the 0 layer. Okay, so now I'm going to use my crossing window. I'll select the legs as well as the support for the seat. Okay, and all of those are going to be put. Well, I'm going to turn off these layers as well. Again, same thing like I did with my AutoCAD file. And I'm going to put it on the chair frame layer. Okay, so there. I'll also put this object on the chair frame layer. Okay, now don't be alarmed if some of the lines don't vanish. Okay, but take my word for it. Okay, even if you put another window around it, you'll see that it's still under the chair frame layer. Okay, so right here, just these two lines here, okay, those as well as these two lines here, okay, they're going to go on the chair frame. Okay, and then this entire object here, that'll go on the chair seat layer. Again, don't worry about the fact that some of the lines may not disappear. Okay, again, So I want you to turn off right here. There's that in your tags panel, right here is your detail button. Can you click on color by tag? And when you click on color by tag, turn that on, you're going to see all the objects and what layer they're on. Okay, so just confirm. You can see that this top part here, okay, should have been on the frame layer, okay, but it's on the seat layer, so I'll just transfer that over. Okay, so it should look something like this. Again, orbit around. Just confirm that you have, majority of it in brown or whatever layer, color that chair frame is on. Just check to see.
Essentially,
Yeah.
my colors aren't showing up. Yeah, the seat colors, the same.
Okay, so again, you got to go up here and click color by tag.
It's not showing up. Yeah, when I click to it doesn't.
Oh, it's probably on the other screen.
Oh, if you move the toolbar over more.
Yeah. Probably, yeah, move the toolbar over because it's probably on the other screen. All right.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so that is step 4. Now here's another step, again, that AutoCAD doesn't have that you must do in here. You must delete all materials from the material list. Okay, again, we must delete all materials because sometimes if you don't delete the materials, okay, they actually get stuck on some of the objects and you won't be able to see them in Revit, but you won't be able to apply materials onto it, okay? So let's go into our materials panel. And let's go and click on this button right here, in model. Now, before we do this, I want you to go back to your details and turn off, okay? Oh, sorry, let's go back to our tags, go back to our tags folder. Okay, and click on turn off color by tag so that we could see the materials. Okay? So therefore, when we get back into our materials panel and we go into our in model material, here's all the materials that have been loaded for this file, even though half of them or more than half are not actually being used. Okay, but we got to delete them all. Okay, so here's how you delete them. Unfortunately, you have to delete them one at a time. Select one, do a right click and click delete and press enter to accept yes. Okay, and again, do that for all the materials in here. You can see that the majority of them are not even being used. You'll see that this, almost the last 2 materials, these 2, are the actual materials that are being used. Yep. Now, we technically didn't have to delete them all. We really only had to delete the ones being used, but a lot of times when you're using a model, you don't know what materials are being used, okay? So it's best just to delete them all, okay, so that you know without a shadow of a doubt that you've deleted all the material. Okay, so there you go. That's how you need to set up your SketchUp file. Now here's another odd, peculiar thing. When we save it, you need to save it as a version 8. Okay, and again, don't ask me why. It's the only one that works. Okay, I've tried every single one. I haven't tried this new one, but I've tried every single version. Okay, and only the SketchUp version 8 is compatible with Revit. Okay, so let's go to File, Save As. Okay, and right down here, Save As Type. Can you please choose SketchUp version 8? Okay, and let's call this chair-V8. So we know this is the version 8 file that we want to insert into Revit. So go ahead and save that. There we go. We can now go ahead and close this file. Go back into Revit. And now let's start again, just like we did with our AutoCAD file. Let's start a new family. Again, more specifically, let's start a generic model floor-based template file. So let's again go to File, New, Family. Okay, again, we're going to go to our English I folder. And we're going to choose generic model floor-based template. Here it is. I'll go into my 3D view. And I'll insert that. Okay, so now let's go to Insert, Import CAD. And now we're not looking for a DWG file. We are now looking for a Sketchup file. And there's our file right there, Chair V8. Alright, so load that in. Alright. So you'll see, just like the AutoCAD file, it comes in as a one entity item. Again, do not ever explode these, because then again, you're going to come up with 1,000 or more faces that you need to then apply materials to, which will be painful. Okay? So let's set our visual style to realistic, and the same process happens here, just like we did with our AutoCAD file. We're going to apply materials to the 2 layers. So we're now going to go to Manage, Object Styles, Imported Objects, and again, there are our 2 layers, and here's where we apply the material. Okay, so go in there and just choose, and go into your material browser, and choose the material you wish to apply. Again, I don't care what materials you use, okay, just apply a material to it. Okay, so choose the material. Doesn't matter to me which one you choose. And apply it. So there we go. And this process going forward is pretty much the same as AutoCAD. Let's go ahead and save it. Okay, save it as an RFA file. Okay, I'm just going to call this one Chair. Now I can go ahead and bring it into my project now. Okay, so here's back to my project. Insert. Oh, not insert, sorry. Architecture, component, load family, and bring in your chair. There it is. Again, once I put it down, I'm able to rotate it. Okay, but for some reason you can't press spacebar while you're putting it down. As soon as you put it down, you can use your spacebar, okay, to rotate it. like the table, again, if I wanted to alter the materials while it's in the project file, you simply go back into that Manage tab, into the Object Styles option, okay, and under Imported Objects, there are our layers, okay, there's my chair frame, my chair seat, and you can see now that especially when in our project, you want to make sure that your layers are actually a little more specified than just frame, or just seat, or just leg, okay, because you could have 4 or 5 different seats, or 4 or 5 different frames, or 4 or 5 different legs. Okay, so you want to be a little bit more specified so that I know, oh, this is the chair seat. Okay, oh, this is the table leg, not the chair leg. Okay, so be a little more specific when you're creating your layers. Okay, so again, I can go in here and I can change, okay, the material on the chair if I wish. So again, you can see the process is pretty simple. You just gotta abide by the steps. And again, I put together a step-by-step process in your notes, okay, so that you can bring in. And it's just not obviously for floor-based objects, okay. Try to take advantage of being able to put things on the ceiling or put things on the walls, okay. I always noticed that especially when I was grading your assignment 1, okay, a lot of things on the floor, nothing on the walls, nothing on the ceiling, okay. So again, try to use objects on the ceiling, on the walls, because chances are in a real life situation, okay, you're gonna have things on the walls, you're gonna have things on the ceiling, okay. So take advantage of it. All right, so here is your assignment for today. I told you it didn't take very long to do this. Any questions, first of all? Any issues? Yeah.
So it has to be a 3D CAD model, right?
Yes.
Okay.
As opposed to?
Like just a regular 2D.
Sorry?
Just like a regular 2D something.
But then, like, give me an example of what you would bring into a 3-dimensional model.
Oh, never mind. Never mind. Sorry, I'm thinking of something.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering if there was something in particular you were thinking of, like a piece of paper, or or a flat object that.
Could you do the same with like a flat object?
No.
Okay.
Okay. So even if you were thinking of something that's flat, like a piece of paper or something, it still has to be a face. So you still have to extrude it, or however you create the object. It still has to be a face, even though if it's just a millimeter thick, it still needs to, it can't just be a rectangle. Okay. All right, so here's what we've done so far. So for assignment 3, you've done step 1. You've created your custom components and you've placed them into your living room area. Okay. Step 2, you're going to use 3D models from Sketchup and AutoCAD. Okay. So here is your next step. So you're going to find 3 3D AutoCAD files and 3 3D SketchUp files from any online resource. And here are a bunch of online resources that I would highly recommend. Find furniture to be placed in a dining room and a bedroom area, okay? And they can mix and match. I mean, I always see this, all SketchUp they put in a bedroom, and all AutoCAD they put in the dining room. No, you can mix them up, okay? Prepare them and insert them into six RFA files. So remember, we must put them in an RFA file first. Now, I would highly recommend that when you put them into a 3D model, okay, when you bring it in, that's when you should apply your materials. Try to apply your materials when it's in the RFA stage, okay, like we did today. Okay, don't wait until you bring it into your project and then you've got like, 80 different layers that you need to deal with, okay? Do it all from your RFA file and then bring it in, okay? Now, this is a bit of a typo. I did make a change to this. Okay, I did make a change to this. It says, well, first of all, let me finish this. Prepare them and insert them into 6 Revit files. Make sure to start a family file using the appropriate generic model template file. Okay, and please try to not make them all floor-based. Okay, start putting stuff on ceilings and walls now. Okay, at least one. Okay, and then right here, I changed this. Okay, I changed this on your actual file. It says, do not add materials yet. Some of these materials must have to be bumped or cut out during step 3. Ignore that. I want materials on all your objects. Okay? So please, again, make sure you put all materials on objects. And here's another one, and again, let's see. It doesn't say here. I should probably read the one that I put on Slate for you. Just bear with me for 1 second while I open Slate here. I did do a few minor changes to the instructions. So again, find 3 AutoCAD, 3 SketchUp, prepare them in 6 Revit family files. Make sure to put them on the appropriate generic model template. Insert all 6 family files into your assignment 3 Revit file into the dining and bedroom area. Apply Revit materials and 3 custom materials. Okay? So you need to make sure that you apply 3 custom materials. Doesn't matter which ones, it doesn't matter to what model. I want you to make sure you have 3 custom materials applied somewhere in any of those 6 Revit files. Alright, and that's it. Yeah, okay, when I say custom, I mean taking an image, perhaps from the internet, or perhaps that you created on Photoshop, okay, and use that. Now, when you're submitting this, I need you to make sure that you submit only the Revit file. I don't need your RFA files. I just need the assignment 4 Revit file, okay? Because you're inserting your components into there, okay? If I want to see your components individually, I simply have to open up those family files within the project. So do not submit all 6 Revit RFA files, only the 1 project file. Also, I need you to submit your 3 custom families, or your 3 custom materials. Okay, so submit the JPEG or whatever raster image that you're using. Okay, submit those 3 images as well. Any questions on this next step? Please make sure you have this ready before the start of our next class.